Today I'd like to introduce you to Frans de Witte, an architect who's been with MVRDV since 1995 and which now leads their Americas studio. Frans has overseen projects in Europe, the US, and South America, and he is currently leading projects in the Netherlands, the USA, Canada, and South America, including a 23-story mixed-use building in Mission Rock, San Francisco, and 6 residential towers in Ecuador, as well as a master plan for affordable housing in Boston. Now, talking about MVRDV itself, the firm started in 1993 and is like one of those timeless music bands that appeals across eras. They have endured, they have adapted over time, stayed true to their essence, and kept on setting trends in contemporary architecture. As we begin the second semester in our school dedicated to housing, both individual and collective, Frans will share Studio's approach to residential projects of varying scales and complexities. And he will touch on themes such as building for the collective, creating community, and designing meaningful shared spaces. We are also eager to hear about the SEAL project currently underway here in Montevideo. Altogether, I believe this will be a truly inspiring and provoking talk. Thank you, Frans.
Yeah, I'm sorry, this is going to be in English, as my Spanish is not good enough to have a presentation. I must also warn you, I made a new presentation for today with new and old projects, but I also don't know exactly how long it's going to be. So maybe at a certain moment when I see, okay, it takes so long that I will skip a project and to make sure that we have the most important projects. We're trying to inspire the next generation of designers and architects. And today, actually, I made a presentation on housing because I know that is the topic for this semester. MVRDV stands for Maas van Rijs de Vries. It's an acronym for the 3 people that you see in the front. So Nathalie de Vries, Winnie Maas, and Jacob van Rijs. They started the company in '93 with an office building. And from that, now 35 years later or 33 years later, we're a company still based in Rotterdam. And we try to design green and innovative spaces, creating happy spaces and adventurous places for an ever-changing world. And we do not only say houses, but we actually work on all scales, from private houses to big urban plans. And we do that with a large team, of course, with around 280 people from 5 offices. So our main office is in Rotterdam. We have a small office in Berlin of 30 people, an office in France of 20 people, an office in Shanghai of 10, 15 people, and a very small office in New York at the moment where actually only 2 people are sitting. And that's the one that we hope to grow, or that's the one that I hope to grow as I'm working in that region. Some of our design philosophy. We are founders, and were born in the 70s or in the 60s. So we know about the Club of Rome, and where they already said in 69 that we're seeing the end of the resources of this world, and that is something that we need to work, of course, with. And urban sprawl causes a lot of traffic and emissions, and how can we combat that? And we are firm believers that cities are an answer, and we're living in cities, one of the answers. But of course, that creates, it creates density, and it is sustainable, but it's also very stressful. For everybody who read Delirious New York, this is of course a very recognizable image. Where already there was the utopia of living inside a city but on a different way. And we're thinking, how can we do that, and how can we do it differently? but we also should be aware that we're working in an industry that actually is responsible of 1/3 of all the CO2 creation in the world. And what can we do about it? And of course, we cannot help it on our own, but it's something that we want to see how can we help. And that's why we're trying to be sustainable. We adapted the sustainable goals of the UN. And of course, we as architects, we as builders, we cannot do everything, but we can always look, what can we do? How can we make our buildings greener? Can we make sure that our cities become greener so they become nicer to live in, but they also cool down because of the green, that you have nicer atmospheres in the city. But also looking at the carbon reduction. This is a project that we did in Brussels, Belgium, where by reducing the carbon actually and changing the structure from a full concrete structure to a hybrid construction, we reduced so much weight that we could actually reduce the piling underneath the building. And with this reduction in piling, we actually saved enough money to pay for the wooden floors, to pay for the hybrid structure. So actually thinking about carbon can also be something that helps you pay for your building. In this case, we actually managed to reduce almost 49% of the embodied carbon. And that's why also we have a group in MVRDV that's called MVRDV Next. And together with them, they do a lot of programming, computer science, data-driven design. And together with them, we made the carbon guidelines. And what we're trying to do is to make people aware in our office, where is the carbon? Is it in your floors? Is it in your columns? And during the design process, already from the first sketch till the end, put our design actually in the carbon calculator. It's a calculator that calculates the amount of carbon that's in your building, and then see where you can optimize it and how you can optimize it and make smart decisions. Because we're still architects, so we still want to design buildings. So sometimes we will put in something extra carbon, but then by reducing it somewhere else. And we also gave ourselves a target. So what we're trying to do is that before 2030, we want to have less than 400 kilos of carbon per square meter in our building. That is also to make sure that we reach the Paris Agreement. We're not there yet. We're at the moment at 469. So, but every year we're going down, and we calculate all our buildings to also track that. And we also are starting to publish this data online, so that everybody can also follow us and see how we try to reduce our buildings. Another way that we're doing that is actually also is, for example, in this building is 90% demountable. Everything in this building can be reused. Just thinking about the start of the building, we started to think about, can we use, instead of welding steel, we bolted steel. The floors are actually loose on top of the steel, and they're only with clamps holding on. The whole facade is screwed on to the building. All the grid is a standard grid, standard element, so that if in 30 years or 20 years, when you take it apart, you can actually demount it. It's one product, and you can use it somewhere else in the new building. So from already thinking now about what are you going to do in 30 or 50 years with your building, but also with the installation, for example. This is a laboratory building that can transform into offices and vice versa. So we actually made two designs for this, or two mock-ups for this building. One of the facade, and the other one was actually for the installation, to make sure that everything was visible, nicely designed, but also easily accessible, so that people could change easily a laboratory into an office or vice versa without constantly having to open ceilings, so from the beginning start rethinking about how a building like this works, but also how the lifetime and the lifespan of a building works. Another study that we're doing a lot on is resiliency. Making sure that this is a study that we did for Vancouver, but also for the Bay Area in San Francisco, thinking about how do we make areas resilient for the water rise, sea level rise. And actually we made a small book about that, the Sea Level Rise Catalog, where we put all our information in. So, and what is that? We're working from the MVRDV office. I thought it would be nice to show actually how our office looks. That maybe also explains a little bit where our projects come from. So it's an old building built just after the Second World War in 46. Designed by a famous Dutch architect Maaskant and Van Tijen. And we're occupying the 5 wide buildings that you see in the middle. So it's one big building. It's a mixed-use building where a lot of small companies were. On the top, there were actually people living in the past that maintained the building. And when we moved in, these were actually factory floors. And when we moved in, we transformed it into an architectural office. So we have 3 spaces. The white space is our working space, where we have our tables where everybody sits, and then we have our computers. Then we have the middle, that's the family space, where we have lunch every day together. So it's a long table where from 12 to 2 everybody sits down, has lunch, to actually meet each other, to see each other, and to hear what people are doing. What project are you working on? You're doing something in Asia, I'm doing something in the Netherlands. Can we learn from each other? Can we make sure that we exchange? And to further that, we have this tribune inside our office where every month there is actually a Pechakucha where the youngest student needs to present the project. So if you as an intern come to us, you work on a project, once a month you need to present that project to the rest of the office. What is of course very interesting, because you're actually being trained to present your ideas, to present the ideas also from other people. Because now all of a sudden it's not your student that you're presenting the work of somebody else. Oh, that's a double. Oh. So, and then the third zone is say the zone where all the meeting rooms are and where all the facilities are, and that you see that these are very colorful. And every room has its own identity. So this is one of the big meeting rooms, and then you see in the bottom you see the smaller meeting rooms, and the white one, for example, it's a completely whiteboard. You can scribe on every wall. The blue one is actually a model room where all our models are standing. And now let's go into some projects. I start with smaller projects and I will grow into larger projects. This is a project that we did in New York, where there's an interesting building next to the Hudson River. The interesting part of this building is actually you can drive into the building with your car. You go up in an elevator, and then next to the elevator there is your house. We were asked by the owner of this penthouse, and he said, yeah, I have this penthouse, but it really doesn't function, it doesn't work. I have my living room on the ground floor, I have my bedrooms on the top, but I have 2 balconies that are connected towards on the top floor. How can we change this, and can you change, also get rid of this huge stair that takes so much air? And what we did here was really rethink the layout of this apartment, and just actually flipping it. So having on the bottom floor, making there the 2 bedrooms, and actually on the top floor creating there the living space, so that you have a much more open space that connects towards the. And one of the things that we did was introduce a new stair. So when you step out of the elevator, you actually walk onto this glass floor that where underneath you have the stair that goes down. And you see this glass railing, and there's something special with it, because with this glass railing, one of the demands of the client was also, I want to have a separation when I have a party between my say living room and my private bedrooms. And how can we do this? So what we actually designed here, that this glass can actually fold down. So you have a fantastic dance floor during your party, but then in the evening, at the end of the day, you want to go back to bed, you can open it actually, and you can take the stair down. And you see here, this is the new living room that we created for him, that is then connected. It's much more open, more bright, and then it's connected via towards this terrace. And then if you walk to the other way, also there you see the kitchen with a second living room, also connected to the other terrace on the other side. And then if you go down, you take the stair down, and then you come into the bedroom. That is then behind this his and hers clothes. You have the underneath there actually the bath, and then you have the bathroom that's there. And then we included also a very small, say, private family room that is taking use of this double high space that we just made a lot smaller. And the idea of this project is really that we were asked, can you rethink the layout of this project? And that is what I tried to show a little bit in the project that we have there, where we were asked to, okay, we have a problem, can you try to help us solve this? And that sometimes means thinking outside the boundaries of the current confinement. And that's also what we did here for the Didden Village, a very small project, but very nice, very significant, where we were asked by the owner of this building. He has a workshop on the second floor and the ground floor, and he was living together with his family and at that moment 2 sons in one big room. So the kids were actually sleeping in this little garden house that they put in their house. But yeah, they were growing up and they said, yeah, this isn't working anymore. But we saw, yeah, you have this huge rooftop. Can we not use that as an extension, as a way to go actually outside of your house and add the square meters? So we made this small little model, showed it to them, and they loved it. And what we did is we actually prefabricated everything. So we made a small extension of this model, and all the elements were prefabricated and were hoisted inside their house. So to have a very minimal impact on the city and have a very fast and construction. It's almost all wood with the polyurethane coating. These are part of the drawing set that we submitted to the city because we needed to get approval, of course. The only thing that we showed on the drawing also was the column number, RAL 5015. We didn't show that it was actually then sky blue. So the first time that we actually started putting stuff on the rooftop, people in the neighborhood were like, why do you are extending the house with a blue rooftop building? The nice thing is, a year later when we came back, everybody loved it. It became part of the neighborhood, and actually this changed the way people were thinking about their own rooftop. People were now actually also living on or doing stuff on their own rooftop. And we cleaned up the house. So you see, this is now the ground floor, and you have, this is one of the 2 staircases going up. So this is the staircase for the children that has not only the 2 staircases, but also the hidden part for the children to climb and slide down. Comes up in their house in their small house with the 2 rooms, and on the top of the room, then they have at that moment later they move downstairs or in the move on floor. They have the beds, and then because they were always living together, we also wanted to make sure that in the evening they still could have contact. So we also actually made 2 windows that could open to each other. So if they still wanted to sleep next to each other, they could actually crawl into each other's bed. And this is one of the things that I like mostly, because we were hanging everything from the roof. If you look at the bottom of the staircase, you see it's floating. It's a small detail, but it's something that I really like about this project. And this is then the staircase leading up to the parents' bedroom, and that then also leads to the extra outdoor space that we created for them. And then so how it looks now, and the effect on the top of the building. And you see, we are not shy of color, and sometimes that works and sometimes it doesn't. For this little project, it's a mixed use, or it's a studio. So on the ground floor, it needed to be a studio for a design office. And then the top floor was actually their living space. So we designed that, and then we wanted to do, they really loved the blue house, and they said, yeah, we also want to do something like this, but our studio color is orange. So we want to have an orange house. I said, no problem, because this was also in the, you see, look at the back, that it's in the courtyard or of a business space. There are some houses around it, but there were also a couple of houses here, and they started complaining. They really hated the orange, and they said, yeah, I cannot live in my house anymore. Every time if I look outside, I see this orange monster. It actually, we came on national TV. They discussed this project, and it was like everybody was, yeah, it was quite an outrage for such a small building. And then we said, yeah, okay, we can change and there's not a problem, but what do you want then? What kind of color do you want? So actually we did a survey and people could choose, and then not unanimously, but they actually did chose, okay, let's turn it into green. And everybody was happy with this, because somehow this worked with the neighborhood, it worked with the plants that are around it, and this is what the neighbors chose above the orange. And it's a very, because on the ground floor you have the studio, and then if you go up, you have the house with on the one side the living room, and on the back side you have on the smaller side you have the bedroom, and then on top a nice outdoor space, and around it a nice space to play outside, also for the children, but also for the people in the studio. Another small project is where also here the client came to us, he said, I want to have privacy in my villa. I want to have a villa, but I want to make sure that nobody sees me, but I want to have a lot of glass. So we said, yeah, okay, that could be. Then what we could try to do is then have, say, the outside wall, we close, and then we first have a program of where the supportive program. So your toilet, the closed part of your kitchen, your entrance, your garage, we all put that on the street, and then we open it on the other side. So this is the plan that you see. So you see the wall that's there with all the utilities inside, the garage, and then going up you have the bedrooms, and then from the outside, this was of course a huge discussion point, because the city said, yeah, look at the other houses, they all it's fake, but it's all in the style of the 20s, so why can't you do this? So we actually provided a lot of modern architecture from the 20s that were also just with a flat roof, with not a pitch roof, with simple brick work from all over the world. And the city, so in the end they said, yeah, okay, we understand. So they approved that we could build this. So we actually, there's only one window, and then this Brazilian lattice brickwork that also hides a window. And in this curved wall, there is a door. So you move in here, and then you step into this wall, and then you step through the wall inside the living space in the library. And then you see that this house is actually concentrated around an olive tree of 400 years old. The client was Greek, and she really wanted to have this olive tree. That was her pride and joy, and that needed to be the center of the house. So yeah, the glass really curves around it, and you see, so it's closed on the other side, but it's really open on the inside. So the library, and then the kids have the bedrooms upstairs. And an older project from us is the Gemini render, where we were asked to look at these two silos, concrete silos, and we were asked to do housing inside it. But we started talking to the structural engineer, and the biggest problem was financing and cutting holes in there. We could only do very small holes, and also if you look at the amount of square meters that we could make inside, they couldn't afford actually cutting those holes. They were so, these walls are a meter thick, they were so expensive that you would get port lights and that wouldn't work with the housing inside. So we thought, okay, can we not turn that around and try to see if we can actually flip it to the outside. So what we did is actually we only made a couple of holes on one level where we stick out beams through the structure, and on these beams we actually started building the housing. So now we only had to have 4 holes per floor for only the front doors. because we made this fantastic ring of housing around the buildings that were just hanging on this concrete building. And then also we could actually make more square meters, nicer square meters, because the nice thing about this was, of course, that all of a sudden it's not that you have a small window, but you can have a full curtain window for your house. And you have all of a sudden this fantastic, nice living spaces. So they could also actually rent or sell these houses for a much higher price. So actually, therefore, the project, the project almost paid for itself. And as a bonus, we got this fantastic interior space for free almost. Another project is Celadon Amsterdam, and it's actually nice. So, does anybody know this ship? Perfect, yeah. And then the question, of course, is what has this to do with actually housing, and especially the Celadon? This is the Celadon. As you see, it's on the water, so that maybe also helps already a little bit. It's built in 1995, or it started construction in 1994, 1995. And the whole idea of this building was that it's almost like a ship of containers. And every container actually is like a mini neighborhood. And what we did is, before we started talking to the client, we designed mini neighborhoods with different types of housing. And we came to the client and we said, okay, looking at your wishes of square meters of apartments and the differences that you want, and we also want to have, say, this mix of affordable and condos, so social housing and condos. How can we do that? And by having this mix of different units, we could work on this. And every time if you said, yeah, no, I don't like the unité apartments, let's take them out because they don't bring enough square meters or they're too big. So we could bring in another block. And then every block also had its own color, its own facade, and also its own interior of the corridors. And by this, making sure that actually everybody also feels at home in there, because you have an identity. Because if you look at the building, you can say, I live in the orange block, or I live in the red. And the big advantage is that looking at the building or inside the building, we have now houses from almost 50 square meters to 200 square meters. So we have a bigger range. And it's not only, this is actually a social housing, this is a five-room apartment. We also have different types of connections towards the front door. So this is a gallery. This is actually a bigger house of 120 square meters. We have smaller of, this is around 50. All kinds of different houses, different layouts, different amounts of bedrooms. And then another thing that we did is, and that's one of the things I think makes it really special and makes it very flexible, is that you see that we have a couple of concrete walls, but for the rest we actually just have small concrete columns. And what we try to do, and we didn't manage for 100%, but we try to do that all the electricity and all the switches are in the concrete elements, so that all the walls in between can actually be flexible. You can take them out, you can remove them or remodel it quite easily. And the nice thing is also people did it. So if you now go there, except for one group, because there's an elderly group of people living there, their houses are still the same because they're rental houses, but all the houses have been changed. Walls have been taken out. People put in bathrooms at other places. So it's really interesting to see, by giving different facades, giving different options and different apartments, people also start living differently inside this building. As I said, it's on the water, and you go actually in via the stair onto the building, and then you have on the other side, one of the blocks is sticking out of the building. But that still doesn't explain what this has to do with this building. What I said, we started building this building in 94 or 95, early 95, and one of the first things that the contractor said, yeah, we have to sell Amsterdam in 95. And that means that whatever happens, I want this part of the building to be finished. And the still Amsterdam, I was just there, it's 2 weeks ago, and there where I saw the Captain Miranda. It's actually an event every 5 years where 50,000 boats and 24 of the stall ship enter Amsterdam, from IJmuiden to Amsterdam. It's a week-long event where all these ships actually sail into Amsterdam. And it's a fantastic idea, but the client, of course, thought, yeah, there's also a fantastic opportunity to host on this building site all these people. But it also meant that we started thinking, okay, all of a sudden, this is just not a viewing platform, but this becomes an event space almost. Maybe we should do something about it. And I'm glad that we did, because what I said, I was there last week. And you see, this is the building, how it looks now. It looks still fantastic, but they used every square meter of the building as a viewing platform. And especially the platform here, people at a certain moment, because I still have contact, I got a phone call from somebody. They said, do you think this is still, this is going okay? Because there are so many people there, won't we have a problem? I said, no. We knew that it was going to happen, so we also took care of it. So it's of course, it's interesting to see that because of a location, because of an event, sometimes we have to think a little bit ahead of, because that things like this can happen, and you make sure that it's also then a safe space. I must say, we didn't count on so many people on the roof, but that's the Markt Hall. That's one of our favorite projects, I think. It's now 10 years old, but it also brought, say, a new energy into our office, and we really grew at that moment. It's a building in Rotterdam, and we had to build that because at that moment the city was saying, okay, we don't want to have outdoor markets anymore, or we want to have them, but you're not allowed to sell chicken, fresh produce that needs to go inside. Luckily, they changed their mind, but that was the start of this project. And on the ground floor, you have these the market stalls that are there. On the ground, we have 4 layers of parking. There's a supermarket. There's a prep kitchen for these market stalls. And then you go on the side, you have 2 layers of restaurant that look inside the market hall. And the inside is then covered by this huge mural artwork, the cornucopia that represents where all the wealth comes from, all the fruits. And the nice thing is, of course, that you see shrimps that are 400 or 500 times enlarged. You see flowers, but also if you look closely, actually, you also see that it makes the building almost semi-transparent. You see in the background, there's a crane standing there, and that represents Rotterdam. That's always in development. There's always new buildings coming. But you also see actually lines that represent the floors and the walls of the. Because behind this mural are actually what makes it the market hall, the houses. So we have in this building 208 houses, where half of them are rental, and half of them are condos. And they have on one side they look outside, and the other side they look inside. And what we did is actually we looked at it and we developed four types that repeat each other and then step back. And sometimes they stack, and sometimes there are some small differences sometimes to make the facade a little bit more interesting. But in basically it's just these 4 blocks that constantly repeat. And then that means that people can look on the outside, but they also can look inside the market hall. In the beginning, we actually wanted that these windows could open, so that you could really scream downstairs, "Can I have something?" and they put it in your basket. Luckily, the client didn't allow us, and that's good, because now it's when you're in your house, you don't smell anything. You don't notice anything from it. You can look at it, but you don't have the pollution of it or the smell of it. And And if you go, the higher you go, of course, the windows start then tilting, of course, so you get every time a different perspective. And then on the top level, we have a couple of penthouses. And there, they're 1.5, 2 levels. You get in on the 11th floor, and then you or the 9th floor, you go up to the 10th floor. And these houses have multiple, have patios that not only look down, but also have direct daylight, fantastic terraces. And these really give a different view of living in the city. Another project that is nice. This is Eindhoven. As you see, it's quite a green city. This is the location, but also we see here that the green actually was missing on our location. And we were asked to come up with a new project here. It was a competition that we presented. So we looked at the ambitions that were there. We looked at the urban structures. But one of the things that we wanted to do was make a very nice urban life. So what we did here, we actually said, okay, let's try to have as much daylight on the street as possible. So what we did is we cut actually, we looked at the sun angles and we cut the roofs 45 degrees so that we lowered the buildings at the street levels and have more daylight on the streets. That has then an effect, of course, you see, of course, on the building volumes that are there. So number 2 is what you could build, but if you then start cutting, then you end up with building 6. And we did that for all the buildings that we could do there. There were 2 buildings that were existing, so that we had to modify, and then 5 buildings that we built new, so there we had more liberty. And then half of the roofs that we created are solar, and the other one are green, adding this element of green inside the city again. And with the benefit then that we lowered it so much that you have daylight in the streets. And that actually also, if we are in these small streets, it feels like that the houses are not that big actually. But and from a distance you see that there are bigger volumes. And then from the other side, you see all the green roofs that are there, and that we're creating. These are the 2. We're almost done with this. These are the 2. One of the 2 buildings that we renovated. Did the whole interior. Ground floor is going to be retail, and then above it's housing. We recreated the passerelle that was there between the 2 houses. That's also the entrance to the two houses. Here you see the first building that was delivered a year ago. So we first did the first 3 buildings. This is the roof, the green roof. This was after a year, so you see now that the plants really came alive. When they first put on the roof, you're like, oh, this is not what we agreed upon. But yeah, it takes a little bit of time. They need to grow the plants, but this is how it looks now. And before the end of the year, we hopefully we're done. The valley, it is in Amsterdam, and this project was really on the edge of the commercial zone, the office zone of Amsterdam and the new housing. And our building is a mix, so there's housing in it, offices, retail, restaurants, and we thought, how can we work with that? So this was the base volume that we got, 3 towers on the plinth, and we said, okay, on the outside it matches the offices that are there, but on the inside we should start breaking it down and start creating terraces for all the apartments that are there, making it feel like a housing block. And also making sure that we have enough daylight, that we have terraces that go from up and down. Okay. That we have an active plinth. We created a grotto that combines everything, and one of the nicest things that we did is we actually made a public route that goes over the building all the way to the top and down again. And this is a public route that is open 24 hours a day, where people can just walk up in the building. And then also we have a sky bar. But the nice thing about it, of course, we want for the facade, we wanted to create diversity, quality for all these houses, making sure that people had enough privacy, that there was enough solar and sun inside the house. So that had to do with the windows, but also the orientation of the moves of the facades. We are next to a highway, so we also want to make sure that we would block as much sound as possible. Really creating this really nice environment where people could live. This was the render that we made, but of course this wasn't in the end how we built it. The good thing is we had a client that really also believed in our mission. And this is one from their website. And they say if you add green not only to your houses but also the offices, it actually saves you money. Having green in an office reduces the sick rate of your employees and makes them more productive. So we could, with them, we could say, okay, let's work on this project now and let's make it as efficient as model as possible. So with this project, we did a lot of scripting, parametric, what we now would call AI, but parametric modeling, where if you look at this middle tower, we would look at the solar load, the terraces, the amount of daylight that went in and out, and we did a lot of tests. We did really a lot of tests, and the colors, this is then generated by the computer. The colors tell you how good or bad something is. So the redder it is, the lower the score, the greener, the better the score. So with this, we could actually quite easily optimize all these angles for sun, for solar, for wind, all these elements. And that led then in the end to all these plans for the first tower. And we did it for all the blocks, interlocking of course. And that created then in the end this block. This is on top of this route, that is this public route is there. You see the 3 towers, but you also see the facade. And the nice thing about this natural stone facade, actually, it's a waste product. If you look closely at the facade, you see that it's not homogeneous. It's something that we liked and we chose for it, but this was because the stone was not one color, but there were small holes in it. There were different colors in one stone. We got it actually quite cheap because they were going to actually recycle it and put it under the roads, and we turned it into a facade. And also here we looked actually at parametric modeling to optimize this facade. And what we did is that we put the 3D model of the facade in the computer, and we got all the slabs of the cutter, and they looked how we could efficiently cut all these slabs from the big slab that they had, so that we had a minimum waste as possible.
Which software or AI application did you use?
This was all done with scripting, mostly in Rhino and Revit, and Rhino inside Revit. So this was all still, and now we're using a lot of others, but this was mostly in there done with that. Maybe I skip this one for a moment because it's a project in Amsterdam where we did the master plan. We renovated this building. We built a couple of new buildings. The nice thing was, and this is again rethinking the question of your client. There was a design already of 4 different architects, 7 different buildings, but the time changed and they couldn't afford it anymore. And then we were asked. They already had a plan, and they said, okay, we do just 5 buildings, 6 to 8 apartments per floor, very efficient. Can you redesign the facade? And we said, yeah, that's nice, but what is your question? What do you actually want here? And he said, yeah, no, this is the program. We want 65 square meter apartments. We want to have 255 apartments, and we want to have as many corner apartments as possible because that will actually rent out easily. So that's the idea. And we said, yeah, but maybe that should be then the starting point. So what we did is said, okay, what if we just make corner apartments? Make a small block, four apartments per block. Cut them open so that actually becomes your corridor, your where the stair is, where the elevator comes out, where you go into your apartments, and we can still do something then with the building. So we give the window frames different colors. We work with the balcony so that they look not all the same. We add French balconies not only for sound but also to break up this facade elements. Because the other thing that we needed to work with was a very low budget. That's why they wanted to build this 6 or 8 floor houses per floor, because it was going to be cheaper and easier. But by actually designing one building and that then repeating 7 times, we came out fractionally higher than the original budget that they had, but the quality of the houses was so much better that if they looked in their investment model, by renting this out, because this is also what they're going to own for themselves, and looking at the long term, this is just a much better product that they can rent out much longer. All the houses have quality, all the houses, doesn't matter if you're in the middle, have actually a long view, always somewhere looking out from their living room. So really, and then and also we try to then optimize actually the space around it. So because this is an investor park, it needs to be a green. We try to make it the greenest plot as possible. We work with a landscaper. I will skip this for a moment. That's also interesting. We work with a group specialized in fauna and in birds, because we as architects of course know how to integrate elements, how to integrate, but where do we actually put these birds? Where do you put the swallows? Where do you put the so we work with a specialist who told us, okay, we need this on this place, we need this on this side, and because some birds are actually solitary, they want to be alone. Some birds want to be together. And to make sure that all the buildings are a little bit different, we chose 4 different bricks in 3 different patterns, and then with different colors for the window frames, and therefore making all the buildings a little bit different, but also still the same. And that's why we could make them affordable and easily to build. So this is how we presented it to the city. And this is where we are now. And if you look closely, you see here all these great boxes that are actually bird houses, bat houses. They're all integrated into this facade at all the different levels. So really to try to optimize it, not only for people, but also for animals. Okay, I need to skip this, otherwise This is a project in Boston for the Research Enterprise Campus housing. This is a nice project also, because this is something you don't see that often, and that is where our client was actually the Giants. So they're the baseball team of and they asked us to come together with 4 different architects. So we worked with Jeannie Gang, Work AC, and Henning Larsen from the beginning on 4 different buildings at the same time. And instead of just designing on our own, we actually came together and worked in a studio in San Francisco once a month for a couple of days, talking to each other, talking to each other's design on commitments and goals on how we can improve this neighborhood. And we turned that into a booklet, and that booklet was like, say, the starting point from our designs, but also for the other buildings that will come later. Looking at how do we make sure that our buildings talk to each other, make sure that our buildings are part of the same, and that, for example, I need a loading dock, you need a loading dock, let's put them opposite each other so that we minimize the impact on the street, making the street life better. But also looking at our building, where the first block there, we needed to, it's quite a big block, and we needed to do housing and offices. But yeah, of course, I cannot do housing in a plate this big. So I needed to carve it out so that it would actually have daylight. And then I changed the tower because I didn't want to have the standard podium and slab on top of it. So I carved the tower so that it connected better, but also it actually gives more views to the water. But it also creates bay windows. And the nice thing of these bay windows, of course, is that, again, I don't have 4 corner apartments. All of a sudden, I actually have much more corner apartments, much more people that actually can look at the water. And this canyon, because another thing, and one of the things that we also found out is, if we start creating this new neighborhood, can we then also not optimize the way we think about all the MEP? So in our building, we have the hot and cold water plant, and that uses river water to actually hot and cool all the buildings. So underneath this canyon, actually there is the whole plant providing hot water for all the buildings in the building next to us actually has a black water plant. So all the toilet water goes there, is being recycled and then used for the plants that are in the neighborhood. So by thinking about these things in the beginning and not having them all separate in every building, but concentrating them, we could make them cheaper, but also we could actually then really work together with each other to optimize it. So yeah, this is how the canyon comes down. And then maturity, we really looked at, say, the buildings in San Francisco, the colors that, because we needed to do a darker or warmer palette. That's what we agreed among the architects. We came to this GFRC sample. Now here you see the building, and then how it's now perceived actually from the ball game. The nice thing, of course, is this fantastic building on the water. Next to us is the Henning Larsen building. That's the office, and then behind is the green building from Studio Gang. That's also residential. How you approach this, and you had the canyon where you also have then the daylight coming in. The fantastic views, of course, from the top inside the ballpark. That's of course a fantastic bonus. And this is one of the shortest ways to get to the beach in San Francisco. This is literally a 5-minute walk. This is a project that we did, or we're doing actually in Boston, Fennel Gardens. The nice thing about this project, it's Fennel Garden is an existing affordable housing estate. It's built just after the Second World War for people that came back from the war. But in true American fashion, they just stamped houses out of the ground, every block the same. And this is really at the moment a neighborhood where the people living around it, they know it's there, they find it important, but they don't go in. That's just not what you do. And if we went there and we started looking who actually lives there, and then you see that, there are 258 households, but 74% of these households are actually single families with children. So actually mothers with children, a lot of Hispanic people, a lot of black people living there. And then also if you look at the social context, you see that, just look at the average household income, they're making way less money than the people around them. And you also see that reflected in the rents. People pay their 37% of their income in rent. So if you don't earn anything, you don't pay anything. But we try to think about how can we turn this around. And one of the things that we did is we went there. We made models, showed them different ideas, listened to them, tried to find out what they wanted. We made drawings, thinking about the good things, thinking about bad things of the current neighborhood, what did they like, what they didn't like. And from that we With this, we created mood boards, we created ideas for them and communicated them and let them, with us, design what they wanted. And one of the big things that we saw that they want to have a connected neighborhood. It needed to be engaged with the bigger neighborhood around it. It needed to be inclusive and also resilient for change and also making sure that it's a future-ready community. What we did is actually, we said, okay, seeing how many children that live there, seeing how many old people live there, let's make safe spaces. So we moved all the cars that were now actually in between the building, we moved to the side. So all the parking that was there moved to the side. We connected the park that is towards to the south side, towards the inside. We created a big boulevard that actually connects the train station towards the neighborhood now. This is now the fastest connection, or in the future, the fastest connection from the neighborhood to go to the bus station, to go to the train station. But also we try to make it an attractive route. So we went from the existing situation towards this. So we are doubling the amount of houses. We make a fantastic connection. And we moved all the cars to the outside. We also thought, of course, about the height. So on the train side, it's higher than on the small housing side. We looked at colors. We looked at how windows could look, but also we made rules about, for example, the entrances. Don't make a small entrance where people come in and can hide, but make entrances that actually go from one side of the block to the other side of the block, so that daylight comes in, people see each other, people meet each other. That's very, very important. But also make sure that you have, for example, on the ground floor, houses that have a door to the outside instead of that they need to go into a corridor. Why should they? They could just walk in from the ground floor directly. And make sure that you make nice parks in between where people can meet, where people can come together. So we all turned this into a book as a guideline for the master plan. The master plan has been approved, and at this moment, JGE, an architect from Boston, is working on the first project, on the blue block. We hopefully are going to do the community center and the second phase. But as master plan, we said, okay, first somebody else should design a block before we start. So these are some renderings that we made for the project, that is how we sold it towards the city. This is from the other side of the park looking in, and then this new boulevard that really needs to become inviting, welcoming, not only for the people that are living there, but for the whole community around it, and that this becomes this new connection towards the train station, the city, but also Boston Landing, where a lot of the work is. So now the last two projects. One is in Ecuador, and then the other one is Zidane. So a little moment still. This is the project that we're doing in Guayaquil. The nice thing is, we were actually asked by our client. Our client this is his first project in Guayaquil. He's a known developer, but he only develops projects in Quito. But what he's doing there actually is so impactful that the mayor of Guayaquil asked, can you not, with your network of people, come to Guayaquil and help us? Because we have the Maricon, the Puerto Santa Ana. These were all developments in the last 50 years on the riverside, and we have a new site, and it's all nice, but if you look at the Puerto Santa Ana, we're not happy with the result. It's stony, it's a bit boring. How can we improve that? So the client actually made a new master plan for the extension of the promenade, and we were then asked by the client to be the first building inside it. Again, here looking at the project, we of course have a lot of ambition that we wanted to reach. But also we looked, okay, what drives the design for this project? And yeah, in the end, we want to make a colorful, sustainable, and safe community, because it is a fantastic place to be and to live, but it's also one of the cities that is fantastic, but also terrifying sometimes. So we designed buildings shaped not only by views, but also by sun. You're on the equator there, so we actually had sun from both sides. So that was really something that we needed to take into account. Think about it, how does the low sun and the high sun work on this buildings, but also wind. How can we use the wind to cool it, but also to protect the courtyards from, or the inner spaces from the wind. And with this, and also we needed a lot of parking. How can we hide that? So to have parking around, or have a program around the parking to hide that. And then also make sure that it's a very connected site. We started the concept. So how we have the connections, we have the two phases that we're going to build it in. And from that, we looked at the amount of program that we needed to do. And from that on, we started then shaping. So looking at where do we need to have the amenity so that it's central, and where do we want to have the residential, and how much residential, and how can we make sure that people also in the back actually can see the waterfront. So we started lowering the towers. And of course, our client in the beginning said, no. Well, I mean, that's prime real estate. The first tower, that's the one that I'm going to sell the easiest. Yeah, but we said you also want to sell the fourth tower easily. So by manipulating them and making sure that everybody actually has a view towards the waterfront and the river, but also to the mountains and the old town, we actually can optimize the amount of buildings. And then by terracing down, we also not only create a lot of terraces, but we also actually we help to mitigate the wind coming down from these towers. Even more wind optimization was done by just getting the hard corners out of the inside. And then we looked at the colors, and we wanted to actually have that the building changed color and became lighter as the higher it started. So starting with earth tones, and when you go up, it becomes almost white. Opening the corners to create public places, create public destinations, but also to make sure that this whole plinth actually feels like a safe space if you walk around there in the evening. And in the end, we created this green landmark, and really an ensemble inside on the river. With a very strong identity. We're currently building actually the first 4 towers. The 2 last towers actually we already changed again, so we're not going to build 2 towers, but we redesigned it because they found a client that wants to do a hotel, and now it's going to be 1 tower. The nice thing is it's a little bit less program. We could actually do it there for better, and then we could optimize views and wind even better, more for this whole development. Here you see the ground floor, where you see that we really try to minimize the impact from the parking and the gray area that you see on the top. That is technical spaces, but try to have as much open space, retail spaces on the ground floor as possible to really make sure that the building connects to the city. This is the entrance to the mall that's there. The mall, and then if you walk around, you have this open space, plinth, connections towards the housing and the retail spaces. And you go up, you have the clubhouse and the amenities, and then above that you have the parking. And you see, where possible, we try to extend program, so that we could really hide the housing as much as possible. And then you go higher, you have you see the amenity, the outdoor amenities, and then the plants that go up. We try to make it as green as possible, but what is very important, of course, that we wanted to have plants that sustain there. So we really looked at local vegetation, the plants that grow there. If you look at outdoor amenities, we really look at where do we put them and how do we put them. So we did a lot of solar studies on where do we have the most solar, so there I want to have the swimming pool, where do I have shade, so there I will put my tennis court, really optimizing this floor on actually where the amount of solar, how much solar there is, and how much shade there actually is. Now some images on how we presented it, and then one last image, and that's actually 4 days ago, where we are currently under the construction. So these are the first 4 towers that you see coming up. And then the last project, and that's here in Montevideo. And I thought it was interesting not to just show the project, but show a little bit the booklet that we presented towards the city. So it's a bit more than just an explanation of the project, but it actually also shows how we presented this whole project towards the city. And with us, it always starts with, and it's not everything. I reduced it down to like 80 or 70% because it was a bit longer. But it always starts, of course, with looking at the city. Where is it, and how do we perceive the city? And then what we say, if you look at the topography, it's natural, but it's also very urban. Montevideo, we find it's dense, but also very generous with this space. It's specific, but also very generic. You have what can we add to that? So the project is in Parque Villa Biarritz. We're on this fantastic, it's really a green heart in the neighborhood. And we thought, okay, what can we do to add to this? What kind of block can we do here? And we also talked to the client, and he said, yeah, looking at the park, it's really a place where people go to sports, to relax, to enjoy. If I look at the people that I would love to have here, that would actually be families. This is of course if you look at the presentation, this is how we then looked at the site. It's on this corner. We check how it's connected. Where do you see it from? It is really visible from many points. You directly see it also from the Rambla. It's all this analysis that we did and presented to the city on trying to convince them why our project is going to work here on this location. And we thought, okay, how can we make this green connection inside the building, from the park to our building, but also make a connection towards the sea. How to create this one kind of residential building that responds to this fantastic site that's there. And this was the program that we had. It's mostly housing, a bit of amenities and rooftop amenities. And then for the concept, I think this was one of the most important things. The client said, yeah, okay, I actually want to have people with children stay in the city and don't leave. And what we see now is that as soon as people get children, they leave the city. And how can we keep them? So our idea was, okay, let's have the quality of this nice suburban villa or house where you have a lot of green, and put that into the city. And how can we do that? Looking at the site, of course, we're quite limited. We have 2 big blind walls where we don't have any sunlight or daylight. That really affects, of course, and it creates a unique dark zone, and that really doesn't help us. And we try to solve that by introducing a patio so that light really goes deep into the building. And that is not only light, but it actually also helps with the climate, because actually air comes in. You can use it for cooling. You could use it for all kinds of other elements. So we started with this base volume, 11 levels, quite similar to every other building that you have here in Montevideo. We raised the floor-to-floor height a little bit to make it a bit more generous. We wanted to have a bit more quality. Took out the core, added that on top so that we have the same amount of programs still. Making the building, of course, every time a little bit higher. Then starting to push out the facade to create some extra square meters. And with these square meters, we could then push in the facade at other places to create bigger terraces, but also then start taking out blocks to create communal spaces inside the building. Having double high spaces inside your building where people can come together, where you can meet your neighbors, where we can have additional program. And important thing, of course, is with this patios that we're creating, or these openings in the building that we're creating, it's not only daylight, sunlight that's coming in, and air that goes through the building, but of course you also create vistas from your house, from these places outside. And of course then with the facade design we also wanted to express that you see that it is individual units. And also what we want to do, of course, is the first, it's connected to the park, so make sure that you have balconies where you can have plants, but also in these bigger openings create possibility to have bigger plants. This is the section of how it works, how the air comes in, the green, the continuation of the park that goes up, the big openings that we create inside the building block. The shading that is provided by the overhangs that are there. If you then look at the design of the building, this is how we present it towards the client. We have, so then on the ground we have 2 levels of parking. You go in with a lift. Actually, they're changing it now because they added another, they're having another building in close by that didn't have enough parking, so they started to dig a little bit deeper than was allowed. So that's also why it took a little bit longer for us to get the final approving, because the city said that's all okay, you can have more parking, but then lifts don't work anymore, so you need to have another system. So we had to during construction had to redesign this. Then you go up, you have the spa, the wellness, connected to the patio, and then you have the entrance level, the ground floor, on the corner with the fantastic restaurant that will be there, the entrance that you walk into, where direct access towards this big patio that's there, that you walk into, and then you step into the elevator towards your house. To make it a bit simpler, we actually started designing blocks. So not every floor is unique. What we have, as you see here, we actually designed a couple of blocks and that we just repeated to make sure that also, I mean, it looks fantastic, but it also needs to be buildable and affordable, and also, especially structural-wise, everything needs to stack on top of each other. So while we presented this wild idea to the client and he fell in love with it, he was also quite clear, how are we going to build this and how are we going to do it? So we really started looking how can we actually repeat elements, repeat floors, so that it becomes easier and we can actually also repeat the whole structural system. So here you see some of the floors that are there. You see there are 3 to 4 bedrooms per house. Big outdoor spaces, communal outdoor spaces, nice terraces for everybody. And then these bring, of course, again, natural light all the way towards the bottom of the performance. And we go up and you see a repeat, the big outdoor space on the 7th floor, double high, with again a communal terrace. And as you, and all the way up then towards the top, where some of the houses even become a little bit bigger. Then you get towards the top floors where it's actually only a patio for the last 4 floors, because we didn't need to have a side opening for daylight, because all the daylight is coming from the top there for the bedrooms. And then you get to the all-important rooftop with the swimming pool, but also, of course, the barbecue. That was one of the things that was made clear in the first meeting that we had. Our client took us to a couple of their buildings that they have. they showed us directly the rooftop and also the swimming pool with the barbecues. We had an asado on the work site, so he wanted to make sure, okay, this is how we live, and this is one of the most important things. And this, of course, just very important, and to then also make sure that it's there and you can use it. Some last images, the elevation on how we. And then I thought it was interesting to show it like this, and so that you have an idea on how we actually showed it towards the city and how we got approval from the city to build this. So currently, I'm going there tomorrow again for some elements. They're still digging. They should come up soon. That's what I understood. And then that's it. Oh, I have one, and then it would be good if you take your camera out. I showed you the blue house, the rooftop extension. This is one of the smaller rooftop extensions that we did. We also did, and I think you were there at that moment, we did a huge stair in the front of the station of Rotterdam. We did a lot of research in how can you actually use rooftops in a city. And we turned that into a rooftop catalog and a nice book. And seeing that, let me, you can see it there. If you copy that link, you should be able to download it. Then you don't have to buy it. That's it, thanks.